Joining us now, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. He's filing papers today to be on the New Hampshire ballot. Mr. Trump, did I get you out of bed? You ready to go?
No, you didn't get me out of bed. I'm ready to go. I'm leaving for New Hampshire very shortly. We're going to be filing our documents today.
All right.
That'll be very exciting.
So you'll be on the ballot there. The polls show that you should expect to do well. The polls are all over the place, to be frank. Quinnipiac, the national no-show polls show you locked up with Carson, as you know. They see a big bump for Rubio and Cruz after the debate. People were expecting that. Now we see it. There are also state polls that tell a different story in terms of your growth. Here it's a little stagnant on the national side, but in states like Georgia, South Carolina, you're seeing pops. Make the case for why you believe the polls say you're doing just fine.
Well, one just came out in Florida, and I'm way ahead. Just came out a little while ago, and I'm way ahead. The polls I've done very well in. You know, it's amazing. Last week we had ABC Washington Post where I was way ahead, a national poll, and that came out. And then CBS came out where I was slightly behind by, I guess, 2 points. And everybody thought it was bigger than the Benghazi story with Hillary Clinton. It was amazing. And I said, well, what about the ABC Washington Post poll? They said, oh, well, we didn't see that one. So, you know, I think it's a pretty unfair playing field, but that's okay, because ABC Washington Post was a great poll for me. It came out just about at the same time as CBS. And, you know, it's an incredible thing. But I think I'm doing really well in New Hampshire. We're doing really well. You saw yesterday we took the lead back in Iowa. We have a huge lead in Florida, a huge lead in South Carolina. And so, you know, we continue to go on. Look, the bottom line is it starts on February 1st, so everybody will see what happens on February 1st. But, you know, I'm getting the biggest crowds by far. Yesterday, other than Sarah Murray, didn't report it very well because she never flips the camera to show the lines. I think she's absolutely terrible, your reporter. But we had a line that went down practically to Park Avenue from Trump Tower where
I drove past it.
An incredible scene there.
I drove past it.
Simon & Schuster people said they've never seen anything like it.
I saw the lines.
And
the book's selling well.
If you listen to Sarah Murray, you'd think there were 3 people standing in the atrium of Trump Tower.
No. That's not the way she did it.
Well, that is the way. That is the way she.
That's the way you took it.
She has no idea.
That's the way you took it. I understand.
Either she's a very unemotional person, or she's not a very good reporter.
All right, let's talk about the tactic. First of all, I opened up your introduction and interpretation of the polls to give you your say. I didn't mention the Florida poll because our people in-house don't like the methodology of that poll, so we're not using it until we can confirm the numbers. The other ones I gave you,
somebody else were leading, I guarantee you'd be using it.
No, absolutely not. If the methodology isn't good, we don't use it. But
I accept your word on that, Chris.
I appreciate it, and I take yours as well. So when you use these tactics of negativity about the media, I get that they are working for you, but it is also my job to check them on you. You've lumped me in with what you would call the Sarah Murrays. You know she's a top-notch reporter. You know we have her there because she does a good job. Well, you said the same thing about me, too, though, right? If I say something you don't like, you say, well, he stinks.
You are a top-notch. I don't see it with Sarah Murray.
All right, I'll take it for today.
She never reports on my crowd sizes. You know, we have the biggest crowd. She shows her face and never scans the room and shows the tremendous crowds that I'm getting.
All right. Well, let's make it about you, not Sarah Murray.
Things. I mean, maybe she's a low-key individual that doesn't believe in showing crowds.
I
see other people. They have crowds that are tiny by comparison, and everybody shows their crowds. They never show mine. So,
everybody is uniform in their reporting that you are certainly the biggest celebrity in the race. Nobody is questioning that. It's how it will translate into you as a leader, into you as a president. That's what the testing is about. However, these tactics have worked well for you. The question is, will they continue to? Yesterday, you were outspoken about how you thought Hillary Clinton had gotten a pass, only easy questions in the debate. Now, we both know you tweeted that you thought Anderson did a great job in the debate.
He did do a very good job.
He was the one asking the questions.
Terrific job.
So how did she not get good questions if he did a great job?
Tough questions, but they weren't tough like the questions that we were getting. And the questions that I was getting, it wasn't even a question from John Harwood. He was making wise guy statements with the questions.
Right, but that's one example from one guy.
Person, by the way, and he asked him a question about me, and Governor Huckabee let him have it. And I thought he did a great job. So the difference is I thought Anderson Cooper did a great job, but comparison, and they were tough enough questions, but they weren't tough like us, and ours weren't even questions. They were statements given over by the moderators.
I know, but Mr. Trump, can you imagine what would happen if he came out against Hillary Clinton? Here were his first questions. Will you say anything to get elected? Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to? Are you a progressive or a moderate? He then looks at Bernie Sanders and says, is there anybody else here who's not a capitalist? And then starts to dictate what he says that the GOP made to go ad against him as a socialist who honeymooned in Russia. These were heavy blows that Anderson brought. He tested them. He showed what you want to see in a debate, which is when I punch you in the nose, how do you respond? And this would be something you should embrace, right?
Well, the question is, did he talk about the emails in any great length? He asked Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders somehow gave her a pass. That was the end of Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Not Anderson Cooper. That was Bernie's judgment, not Coop's.
No. But did he ask? Did he go into the emails with Hillary during the question?
Sure,
right?
he did. Sure, he did his job. But this is about you guys, not about the media.
No, I understand that. There were other things. I mean, there were a lot of things that could have been asked of Hillary that could have been very nasty. So nasty that I don't even want to bring them up. But there were many things that could have asked. Now, with that being said, I thought Anderson was very professional. I thought he was tough. But if you look at the questions that were asked of us, they were much tougher than that.
All right, so let's leave that as it is. The obvious takeaway from this.
They weren't even questions; they were statements.
The obvious takeaway, I think we'll both agree on this, is that you should do CNN as often as possible because it is obviously the fairest place doing the job at the highest level. Agreed?
And you'll get your best ratings.
Agreed. Let's move on. The book comes out. The reaction is huge. People are looking at it in there. They're buying it. They're buying multiple copies. And now we start to look inside. There are two things I want to get your response on. There's this guy, Michael D'Antonio. I know that you were working with him in the beginning when he was doing his research. Then you cut him out. He tells a very different story about how you got your start, the help you got from your family. My question to you is this. What is wrong with acknowledging the help that your father, who's one of the legends in New York City in terms of building a better city, what's wrong with the fact that you had a successful family and they helped you?
You know, my father was very, very proud of me. Michael D'Antonio wrote a third-rate book. He's a guy I don't even know. I did 2 interviews with him, 2 or 3 little ones. And then I saw where he was going. I left him. I walked out of the room. He worked with somebody from People magazine. He said my sister and my brother and people gave me a $30 million loan. They didn't have $30 million. When I started out, they didn't have 10 cents. They did well on their own, and they didn't have money. And my father never gave any money. When my father passed away, he gave some, but by the time he had passed away, I had already built my business, frankly. And when my father passed away, who was a wonderful guy.
Yes.
By the way, your father really knew my father and liked him a lot.
He liked him. He respected him. He thought he was one of the giants of New York, that your father did the right thing for the right people, and that's why he was respected by politicians and others.
My father wasn't, he was a builder in Brooklyn and Queens. When I went into Manhattan, my father didn't want me to go into Manhattan. My brothers and sisters didn't have money until my father passed away, because when my father passed away, they got something from my father. Not nearly as big as people think, but they got something from my father. Whatever my father left, it was split up. Don't forget, I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, me, and other people got things, okay?
All right,
so
I don't understand.
Listen, just so you understand, by the time it was all split up, then we had a thing called estate tax, which is a massive tax, so you have to pay estate tax or whatever you got. But by that time, I had long built my company. But this guy, D'Antonio, said, my brothers and my sisters gave $30 million. They didn't have $30 million, especially in those days. He was talking about the 70s and 80s. They didn't have any money.
Right. My point of the question is, as you know, I know your family's history very well.
Right.
Your father is basically beyond reproach, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what he did for the city. I just don't get what's wrong with acknowledging that he helped you early on.
They used to use the same beauty parlor in Queens, and I think they really loved each other. My mother thought your mother was one of the great ladies, and by the way, so do I.
Well, look, you certainly won my mother over. She's already going to give me a nasty talk this morning for asking too many questions. You should have let Donald talk. But I'll deal with her when I get off with you. I'm just asking that question because it shows
you just heard my answer. My answer was my father was totally supportive. I learned he was my mentor. He was my best friend. But my father didn't have that kind of money where he could give that kind of money out. My father didn't want me to go into Manhattan. And I took a small loan, and it was relative. And when I say small compared to what I built. I mean, I have a net worth of much more than $10 billion. So anybody that can take a small amount of money and build up that kind of a net worth. And I'm not saying that, and I also own some of the great assets of the world, including Turnberry in Scotland and Doral in Miami, you know, hundreds and hundreds of acres right in the middle of Miami,
right.
And Trump Tower and many other buildings all throughout. You know, the Bank of America building in San Francisco, a big chunk of that, 1290 Avenue of the Americas. I have some of the great real estate assets. And, you know, so it's not just like they throw off X dollars. They throw off a lot. I have very little debt. You saw that because when I did my filing, and a lot of people said, oh, well, he'll never file because, but then I have all these people writing books about I got this, I got that. I got peanuts. Brooklyn wasn't worth it. I mean, I've heard numbers where I was given so much money. Brooklyn wasn't worth that kind of money at that time. You're talking about a long time ago. When I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel, in fact, I got Hyatt to put up a lot of the money because, frankly, to put up that kind of money coming out of Brooklyn and Queens was impossible. But I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel.
I understand. I just wanted you to give a chance to correct the record because it was set up like you were moving away from your dad. I wanted to give you a chance to answer.
I have a cousin who calls me all the time, and he sort of does like a family tree. And he said, you know, Donald, someday you're going to have to correct all these horrible books. They're written. They're so wrong. Like Wayne Barrett, a total dope, a total loser. He wrote stuff that is just incredible. He wrote, if I had a lawyer, and if the lawyer 20 years ago represented some mobster or something, immediately I became best friends with the mobster because I had the same lawyer. Even though Steinbrenner had the same lawyer, Cy Newhouse had the same lawyer, some of the biggest people in New York. But if I had a lawyer who sometime during his career represented a mob guy, all of a sudden I was friendly. Wayne Barrett was one of the worst.
All right,
you have so many bad reporters. And my cousin said, you really have to do a book. And this was not that book, although it is a book talking about the assets and talking about debt and talking about all of the things that I've done so well, because I'm trying to show that that's the kind of mindset we need to run the country where we have $19 trillion in debt and we don't make good deals anymore.
I get the case that you're trying to make.
I will make great deals for this country. I'll get us out of debt because I'm very good at it. Nobody can do it like I do. And, by the way, Carson does not have the mentality to do that. He has no chance. And you look at Rubio, he's totally overrated. He's got debt on his credit cards.
All right, good. You made the segue. You made the segue I need to make here, Mr. Trump.
Excuse me?
You made the segue that I needed to make, so thank you for that. When you talk about your opponents, which you've been doing more and more recently, Ben Carson doesn't have the temperament to do it. He doesn't have the experience. Marco Rubio, you talk about his personal finances. Jeb Bush, you talk about his energy. Here's what they say in response, so you can respond. The Carson camp says this is genius, what Donald Trump is saying, because he's using his own weakness as what is Dr. Ben Carson's actual strength. You are the one with the temperament issue. Anyone you disagree with, you call a loser. You say they stink. No matter how good a reporter they are, you say they're a terrible reporter if you don't like what they say. That you have never been in public office.
Thing, by the way, I mean, he's had his own
he says it
issues
differently
with
than you,
reporters.
and he doesn't say the kinds of things that you would say, which often you'll back up on, but it still hurts in the moment.
Hey, Ben will not be able to deal with China. He will not be able to deal with Iran. He will not be able to deal with any of the countries that are really abusing our country, and they're abusing it.
What is the proof that you could?
He will not be able to deal with Japan.
What is the proof that you could?
That's not his thing. And frankly, when you talk about energy, he's got lower energy than Jeb Bush.
But what does that mean, low energy?
You're not going to do anything.
But what does that mean, low energy?
Wonderful and all. I mean, I don't know where Ben comes from, but if Ben got in, you would say, oh, my God, we have ourselves a problem.
But Ben Carson,
I will tell you that.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm not here to advocate for them.
People can put them in. I have the ultimate temperament. My temperament is great. You can't have a bad temperament and build a great company.
But all you do is attack those who disagree with you. You can't do that on the world stage.
I have 90 days left. I want to win. I have 90 days left, and I'm a different guy than Jeb Bush, who said, oh, Marco is terrific. He's my dear, dear friend. He's such a wonderful person. And you know what I said 3 months ago? I said they hate each other. And I turned out to be right.
No. Listen, they both say they don't hate each other. They both say they're doing what you're saying you want to do. They want to win.
Each other. They hate it. To be specific,
they both say they don't hate each other.
More than you will ever know how much they hate each other.
Well, so you know better than they do, I guess.
Extremely disloyal. Marco was extremely disloyal to Jeb Bush. And everybody said Marco will never run because without Jeb, Marco would have never been where he is. And Marco, frankly, I mean, when he ran, it was shocking to people, especially to the people of Florida. It was shocking that he ran.
But here's
because
what
of the loyalty factor.
here's the criticism. Here's the case that you need to make.
And by the way, I think those people are right. He should have been more respectful to Jeb Bush.
I think that he actually got a lot of points in the debate because he was so respectful that when there was this open attack, a naked attack by Bush about whether or not he goes and does the voting or not, how did Marco Rubio respond? With empathy, as a friend would. Certainly if he had said that to you, he would have gotten a different response.
In terms of his attack and his counterattack, there was no counterattack.
No, but I'm saying Marco Rubio didn't counter.
What Jeb should have done is he should have then refuted what Marco had said, because Jeb had the better argument, but he was a bad messenger.
Well, maybe. That's your take. What I'm saying is this.
That's not my take. That's everybody's take.
No, it's not everybody's take.
Well,
we don't know what everybody's
take
is. You only know what you say.
He had a counterattack. He attacked him, and that was fine. And his message was not as badly delivered as people said.
Here's what I'm saying.
He attacked. The problem was Marco then went on talking about how wonderful it is that he didn't vote, which is wrong, and other things. And then Jeb just stood there and didn't say anything.
All right, here's the point. You cannot effectively think that you're going to win to be president by just attacking the opponents all the time. It has to be what you're going to do, what is positive, how you will do it.
I've said what I'm going to do.
Well, you say what you want to do.
Deals where we're losing billions and billions.
I know, but you have to do more. You have to say how you'll do it.
Finest trade deals. Right now, we're suckers for the rest of the world. I'm going to start immediately with renegotiating our trade deals. I'm going to build up our military. I'm going to take care of our vets. I'm going to get rid of Obamacare and replace it with something much better. That all
sounds good, but the devil is in the details.
I've said this 100 times. I mean, unfortunately, you have me followed by Sarah Murray, and she doesn't know what she's doing.
Listen, Mr. Trump, you have to stop insulting people who do their job.
Energy, to use another good word.
It's not.
Nor does she report the energy in the room. Look, she stands there like, there's 12 people in the room.
She is a good reporter. You know she's a good reporter. You were nice to her yesterday when you saw her at your book signing. But now you use this tactic of attacking her.
Report the same night. She didn't even show the lines of people.
Oh, so what? She didn't show the lines. People know how many people were there. You tell everybody.
It stretched, excuse me, it stretched all the way down to Madison Avenue from the door. 3 and 4 abreast.
I get it. We know that there were big crowds.
3 people standing there.
We get that there were big crowds. We cover it all the time. I get as much criticism for doing the interview with you, how I do it, as I do for having you on in the first place, because they say you get so much attention.
I doubt that. I guarantee you this: if Sarah Murray, if there was nobody at the book signing, Sarah Murray, she would have covered it. Then she would have showed all the empty space. But
I don't think you have a good case that the media is mean to you. I just don't think you have a good case.
Now,
you get the most attention.
That's because she's incompetent, or she doesn't like me, or maybe she's given instructions from up above.
Oh, please.
Who knows?
Listen,
I don't really
you
care.
know she's not getting instructions. You know you get the most attention.
I'm sure, yeah. CNN is very straight, I'm sure.
Oh, you see now? You went from saying CNN is good, that we do a good job, now you're taking a shot at us. That's what I'm pointing out.
The reporter that covers me. I think she's terrible.
All right, let's talk about Saturday Night Live.
Nothing wrong with that.
Let's change. I can't have you going after Sarah Murray. I'm going to have to come find you after this interview.
You'll defend her later. I'm sure she'll defend herself in a very timid way.
Well, she's doing a good job. You got to
she's not.
Listen.
She's not reporting accurately.
I'm telling you.
She's not reporting accurately.
She is reporting accurately. You just don't like the reporting.
I go into rooms, I have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people. When she reports it, you'd think there were 5 people there. And the people are going crazy, and they love, we're going to make America great again. They go crazy, and she stands there reporting, well, I'm here. Never talks about the crowds, the crowd size.
You cannot.
Usually, she reports when everyone is left, and she's standing in an empty room.
All right.
No, that's not good reporting.
Mr. Trump, that's your perspective on it.
There's got to be an agenda someplace in CNN.
Listen, her agenda is truth, just like the rest of us, and when you don't like it, you attack us, and it works with your supporters.
Let somebody else have her.
All right, let's talk about Saturday Night Live. Let's end it on a funny note. So you're going there to do it. I was very surprised that they invited you because I thought you were at war with them. Then all of a sudden they want to have you on. You say it's because of ratings.
You're never at war when you get great ratings with a network, okay?
Well,
and nobody gets ratings like me. Do you think that you would have had 24 and 25 million people watching CNN and watching Fox?
No, I don't. But I'll tell you what. I don't think the popularity. I don't think the popularity is enough.
You think if Rubio was there, you would have had 2 people watching?
I think that you help ratings. There's no question about it. I see it minute by minute. It's one of the reasons that we get frustrated that you don't do everybody evenly. You like to go to the safe harbors where they give you a pass.
No,
you don't like to come on as
much. Where they treat me fairly.
Well, do you think I treat you fairly?
I won't comment on that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
come on.
I'm not talking about you. By the way, and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about CNN.
All right, but I'm talking about me. I only do this one show.
I like to go to places where I get treated fairly.
Do I treat you fairly on New Day?
I like you, and I like your treatment, and I do think you're fair, but your other people, I can tell you, do not.
All right, well, look, that's your opinion. I'm just saying, you know, no matter how you feel about Michaela Pereira, I want you to know that I still invite you on New Day whenever you want to come on because you're relevant, you're the front runner. Let's talk about SNL. What are we going to expect from you out of this? Why are you doing it?
Well, I think because Lorne Michaels, actually it started off as a skit, and when I said, all right, I'll do it. And they took it up to Lorne Michaels, who's an amazing guy. He's run Saturday Night Live brilliantly for many years, and he's a friend of mine and all. And he said, well, wait a minute, Donald's agreeing to do the skit. Would he do the whole thing? And they came back, and he called me. He said, would you host Saturday Night Live? And I said, you know what, I would, because it's an honor. You know, I did 60 Minutes a few weeks ago where Putin was with me. We were stablemates, right? And they got tremendous ratings on that show, among the highest ratings. They did really well. And then Lorne called, and he wanted me to do it. So, you know, that's, to me, hosting Saturday Night Live, being on 60 Minutes with a really good piece like they gave, I think that's, you know, they're iconic things. They're great.
Ben Carson says that being president is a serious thing. Ben Carson says you shouldn't be joking around about becoming president. It's a serious endeavor. Should be treated seriously. And that goes to your tone as well.
To that? Ben Carson would have done it in 2 seconds if they asked him.
But
if they asked him, nobody would watch. So they wouldn't ask him because they are about ratings and they are about current culture, and they ask people. I saw that where Ben Carson said, oh, I'm too serious to do Saturday Night Live. I'd never do it. I mean, give me a break. He would have done it in 10 seconds, and he wouldn't do probably 60 Minutes either because it's not serious enough. Ben Carson would have done Saturday Night Live in 2 seconds if they asked him. But they didn't ask him. They won't ask him, most likely. Maybe they will. Who knows? But they probably won't ask him because it is ratings-driven, and he's not going to get ratings. And frankly, if they asked him, he would have done it in 2 seconds. So when I heard his statement about this is too serious, give me a break. He took a 2-week tour of a book where he left the campaign in order to promote a book. So he'll leave the campaign in order to, I mean, he announced, I'm leaving the campaign to promote a book.
Well, you've got a book out, too. He said he was just modifying his schedule.
Saturday Night Live. And if you look at Saturday Night Live, probably every president we've had for many years has done Saturday Night Live. So what Ben Carson said is a lot of bunk, and you know it.
Well, I'll take your criticism on it for your
you don't have to take my criticism. You know it's true also. Every single major politician in this country, probably for 30 years, has done Saturday Night Live if they're invited. If they're invited. But to do it, you have to be invited. And to the best of my knowledge, Ben Carson has not been invited and probably won't. But he would do it in 2 seconds.
All right. I look forward to watching you on Saturday night. It's past my bedtime, but I'll watch it because I like to see what you do there. Thank you for coming on New Day. Thank you for not throwing me under the bus this morning.
Okay.
But don't do it on Twitter after this.
Thank you.
I'm going to be watching the Twitter feed, Mr. Trump. Good luck in New Hampshire today.
Very good. Thank you very much.